Channel 2, English. 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 Channel 2, English.
Welcome, and of course, before we start, all the best for this new year that has started, of course, from my side and all our side, for all of you. And of course, also those watching us online. For the first plenary this year, Iratxe García Perez, our group president, will take the floor, and then, of course, there's time for your questions. Merci. Iratxe.
Good afternoon, everybody. I will speak in Spanish. Y comienzo.
I'll start wishing all of you a very happy new year at this first plenary session, and I'll promise you that this slot, well, that I hope in any case it will be an exception, that we can go back to the usual slot that we have on Tuesday mornings, because 2 p.m. is not the most motivating time of day to hold a press conference. I'd like to start by congratulating our colleague, Stéphane Séjourné, leader of the Renew Group. He worked to improve the Europe project and did this with a clear resolve to cooperate with our group, and I would like to highlight that cooperation that has existed over all these years, and now he's taken on a major responsibility as Foreign Minister of France, and I'd like to wish him every success, personally and also politically, of course. I'd like to inform you, as you know, no doubt, that last week we held a bureau meeting with the heads of delegation in Rome, commemorating the second anniversary of the death of our dear colleague and President Davide Sassoli. We highlighted his role as a president of this European Parliament, but also as a convinced Europeanist and a defender of human rights, a defender of the fundamental values of the European Union: peace, justice. It was an extraordinary opportunity for us to really highlight all of those things and also have a meeting with members of the Partido Democrático and with management to look at our work for the forthcoming months, and also with a view to set the priorities of the Social Democrat family, with a view to the next European elections. But what we're dealing with now is the day-to-day work as the Social Democrat group, looking at the files where we've moved forward, everything that we still have to do. And at that meeting, we highlighted the dangers to the European project from the extreme right, which clearly wants to attack the fundamental values that we defend. Some conservatives from the European People's Party, led by Manfred Weber, are opening the door to those who wish to destroy the European project. And I think it's important for us to be aware of that, because normalizing the extreme right in our institutions means normalizing policies of that extreme right against fundamental and collective rights, the rights of women, LGBT rights, and also negationist positions in terms of combating climate change on such fundamental issues which are European priorities. This week, we have been able to start the plenary session with a tribute to another major European figure. We ended last week in Rome, as I said, paying tribute to Davide Sassoli. And so this week we began with a tribute to another major European, Jacques Delors. There was an extraordinary acknowledgement of him, but we shouldn't just highlight the past, but also take the baton and continue with this, and this is what we try to convey in the hemicycle. Yes, today, with regard to the Belgian presidency, we had a very interesting debate where we highlighted the exceptionality of a presidency at a time, well, just after the Spanish presidency. Prime Minister De Croo acknowledged the success of that presidency. This is not just a transition presidency. There are important issues involving strengthening the social pillar. Also, the need to not block the agreement we've almost reached with regard to platform workers, or important issues like the Air Quality Directive. And on this, I would like to draw your attention to this in particular, because the EPP inconsistency when they take the floor in this debate, well, the President said for their political family that health was of major importance, but at the same time they're against an Air Quality Directive which aims to establish measures to prevent the death of some 300,000 people per year because of poor air. And as I said in the plenary, it's not something that we just invented. As Social Democrats, the World Health Organization actually highlighted this information, and they've been saying they're in favor of the health for Europeans, and they should be in favor of this equality directive to prevent the death of 300,000 people per year in Europe due to air pollution. It's also urgent to work on the multi-annual budget and the situation in Hungary. You're well aware of that. The government there is not respecting the values of the European Union and is preventing everyone else from moving forward on that. So we want to have a common resolution as a parliament sending a clear message on this issue and not fund further, give more funds to a government which is not respecting our fundamental values. In the plenary, we ask the Council to open Article 7.2 of the treaty with the suspension of voting rights for Hungary due to the persistent violations of fundamental rights. We believe that message is very important, and there's clearly an urgent need to change the treaty to ensure that you can not allow governments to unilaterally block decision-making on the basis of the principle of unanimity. That's necessary. Clearly, we need to move forward on that. There's also debate on the resurgence of fascism in Europe that we put forward as the group of Socialists and Democrats. And there was connivance on the part of the European People's Party on that. Mr. Weber has a two-faced speech, so he's opening alliances to the extreme right. And at some point he's going to have to decide if he's the European People's Party of Tusk in Poland or Feijóo's European People's Party, like we have in Spain, opening up alliances to the extreme right in Italy, Finland, Sweden. At some point, he will have to decide what it actually is that he represents and not have this talk this double language. Finally, the freedom of speech in Greece. The European Commission has told us this is the worst European Union country in terms of impeding the work of journalists and freedom of speech. It's very worrying. We've tried to put this on the agenda in the past at the plenary of the European Parliament, and the European People's Party voted against it. So once again, double standards. It seems that defending the rule of law for them depends on who's governing the country for the People's Party. So it was important for us to have this debate, this opportunity, and that will continue throughout the week. I think I've already spoken a lot. So thank you very much, Iratxe.
Questions? Pietro, and please introduce yourselves. Thank you.
Hello, this is Pietro Guastamacchia from ANSA News Agency. A question on the vote on Hungary on Thursday. We read that there seems to be an agreement among groups to move forward with a lawsuit against the Commission in regard to the unblocking of funds to Budapest. Is that an amendment that you will support on the vote on Thursday? Is this is related to something that Daniel Freund just tweeted, actually, if you want a reference. Thank you.
There is a joint resolution from different political groups with different questions. We are focusing on the rule of law in Hungary, but we're also asking the European Commission to avoid allowing the unblocking of funds to give Hungary more funds. And obviously, if they're not adhering to the rule of law, then we are asking for the necessary political and legal measures be activated. That is, if the European Commission were to open up the possibility to transfer more funds to the government of Hungary. If that's the case, then we would ask for all the legal instruments and political instruments to be set in motion in order to react to that.
This is Danielle Weber for the Luxembourgish Public Radio. I have a question on the Spitzenkandidaten Nicolas Schmid, the current EU Commissioner for Jobs and Social Affairs, is candidate to become the Spitzenkandidat of the SD for these elections. What do you think of him as a candidate, and are there others who threw their hat in the round? Thank you.
I'm also always very respectful with regard to the procedures for political organization. The period to present candidacies is still open, so I can't say if he's going to be the only one or not. But with regard to Nicolas Schmid, I think that he represents the best values and the best policies that the Socialist and Democrat Group defends. In recent years, as a commissioner for employment and social policy, he has dealt with major decisions which have emphasized the European social agenda. We have the clear example of the directive on minimum wages, which represents the best of the Europe that we need to progress social and economic justice. He has been very committed to that, and that therefore represents the best, in my view, in this field. So that's what I'd like to say with regard to our colleague Nicolas Schmid.
Eddie first, and then in the back, please.
Eddie Wax de Politico. Y ayer
Yesterday in the Bureau of the Parliament, it was decided to open an office in Panama. What do you think of that decision? And also, to continue along the lines of what my colleague was saying, last week you said that you thought there would not be two candidates for the role of a Spitzenkandidat. So do you think that, looking ahead, will there be another candidate competing with Schmid? Thank you. I don't have any news as to whether or not there will be someone else running. I'm not going to say it's not going to happen. I just don't know if there's going to be another person putting themselves forward. But as I said, I like to be very respectful of the procedures. On the European Parliament's office in Panama, yes, it's an office for the region of Latin America, and I think that's a good initiative, because from the beginning of this term and as president of the S&D group, I always said it was very important for Europe to look to Latin America as a region where we have a major opportunity to tighten cooperation, political, trade relations, and conveying the values represented by the European Union. It's a region in the world where we have a lot to do in order to promote cooperation. We have a positive path ahead in that sense, and parliamentary relations are therefore very important. And having a European Parliament office there, Panama was chosen, but it's representing it's for the entire Latin American region. I think it's good news, and the best is still to come. So the important thing is not just that we've opened an office in Latin America, but it's that this office be used to strengthen relations, promote parliamentarianism between the regions of Latin America and the European Union.
In the back, please.
Bonjour, Olivier Baube de l'agence.
Olivier Baube from Agence France Presse. Coming back to the European elections, you said that the EPP and Van der Weber were tempted to buy right-wing alliances. Could you be a bit more specific? Why are you saying that? Do you have examples? Is there something that's being set up in your view? And linked to that, are you among those who think that at the next elections there will be a majority of anti-European parties here in Strasbourg? We will work to ensure that doesn't happen. Of course, we will work to ensure that citizens are aware of what's at stake. There is a threat in Europe today of these alliances between the right and the extreme right. Yes, that's true. Examples, we have them there. Government alliances, which already exist today in Finland, in Sweden, in Italy, or at regional level in countries like mine, in Spain, where regional governments are governed by alliances between the right and the extreme right. And we also know what this results in, what kind of policies. It's not just a matter of saying there's going to be an violence and it's negative. Why is it negative? We're already seeing why. With policies for censorship of cultural activity, for example, in certain municipalities and regions. We're seeing this in actions involving the removal of rights for women, negating the existence of gender violence, violence against women. That's what we're seeing. And also alliances in this parliament. In this parliament, there already are alliances between the European People's Party and extreme right groups, ID and ECR, on matters such as trying to block the nature restoration law, or, for example, the votes that there was on Erasmus, where the EPP voted with extreme right-wing forces. So it already is a reality. We're seeing it in concrete terms in policies, and these policies in turn result in responses to citizens. And today there are various collectives and sectors which are threatened by these alliances between the right and the extreme right.
Merci. Yes, please.
Bonjour.
I'm Strasser from Bruxelles 2. 3 short questions. Firstly, on your group, your co-rapporteur on the facility for Ukraine. Have you decided to engage in negotiations with the Council? Also, the next term with regard to the committees, will this be concluded for the next conference of presidencies? While there's no agreement today, I'd also like to know why there's a declaration signed by the 5 group presidents on Hungary and the rule of law, which seems to double up on what was already there, although it's shorter.
No colisión.
There's no contradiction. It's shorter. It was negotiated among many more people. It's briefer, but there's no contradiction there. To Annex 6, and the committees will continue to work negotiating with other groups to see if there's a common position. And with regard to negotiations on Ukraine, we're negotiating on that now. We hope that there will be, well, as soon as possible, we'll be able to reach an agreement in order to ensure that this aid becomes a reality for Ukraine.
Okay, I think one more question and then we have to close. Merci.
Hola, buenas tardes.
Good afternoon, Elisa Carioli. I'm from Strasbourg, Greece. I'd like to ask you about Syriza. There are some MEPs saying that Syriza should leave the left group and participate in the June elections with the European Socialists. I don't know what your view of that is. Well, Syriza themselves will decide where they want to be, where they would like to be after the next European elections. The Socialist and Democrat group is present in Greece with an extraordinary party and an extraordinary delegation from the PASOK. We're working on improving the results to ensure that we have as broad representation as possible with our colleagues from PASOK for the next parliamentary term. With regard to Syriza and their decision, well, that's up to Syriza to see what they want, and then it's up to us, of course. We know there were other debates on other parties in other countries, and I've always said the same thing. Well, see what happens with the various procedures, what the outcome is. It's up to them to work on that. So we're not going to do conjecture about something that hasn't happened. Thank you.
Channel 2 English